Give us any chance, we'll take it. Read us any rule, we'll break it. We're gonna make our dreams come true.
Hello and welcome to Night After Night, a podcast about 8 seasons in a row. I'm Lisa Fernandes and
I am Chris Jayawardena.
we're going to be reviewing Laverne and Shirley for you, season by season, episode by episode, till we get to the end. We're on the 5th episode now, and this is Falter at the Altar. Directed by sitcom legend Jay Sandwich and written by Arthur Silver.
Wait, sandwich?
Sandwich.
Okay. Sorry, I've been playing a lot of yeah, I've been playing a lot of Resident Evil lately. The Jill sandwich has been on the mind.
Jill Sandwich. Memories. Okay, plot-wise, Laverne's been getting serious with her new boyfriend, Sailor Sal Molina, over the past couple of months. When he pops the question to her, she decides to marry him before he ships out to San Diego. The wedding immediately starts taking shape, and it's scheduled for that very weekend, so Laverne will be there when he arrives on Monday. Everyone, especially Frank, seems really excited for Laverne. But while Shirley initially seems enthusiastic about the situation, she quickly realizes that Laverne actually isn't in love with Sal, but is going along with the wedding simply because she's been asked and might never be again. At the wedding rehearsal, she tries to talk Laverne out of marrying Sal, but it's a realization the guy doesn't give her goosebumps that leaves Laverne in a sticky position, and ultimately results in her trying not to break Sal's heart while letting him down easy. What did you think of this episode?
This was cute. I like that. It's typical with sitcoms, I find, to have these episodes where you think the world is going to change rapidly, suddenly, very, like this is the big episode. And obviously, it's the 5th episode of a season of a series. And they could have taken that turn. I think some sitcoms could be that bold if they had chosen to. But you know that it's going to resolve and she's not going to end up with him.
But it's way too soon in the series. Too soon in the series.
But I guess what I'm getting at is that the emotion sold well enough that I kind of bought it. And that was kind of cool. And that it was, again, this is like, I was kind of commenting earlier about, I think it was the pilot of the first episode, Society Party. That you kind of expand this into like a film. You could take these concepts and stretch this out. Same character, same kind of tone and all that, and make an interesting little melodrama comedy, out of this idea. So I definitely enjoyed it. It has some weak spots. I do find the fact that it's essentially only 3 or 4 scenes long in some respects, because it practically is like a 2 or 3 location episode, which admittedly a lot of sitcoms are, but this one you can feel it a little more, because some of these conversations should probably be happening like in a park or on the street outside or in the hallway, but it's kind of cool that it definitely has that sense of like, okay, it's a few sets, so it's kind of like a stage play. It's cool in that way, but it's also, it feels kind of small. And yeah, it is TV. Cynically, I will say it's a very TV episode.
It is, but it also throws in a lot of character depth, especially when it comes to Laverne. And I think one of the more touching lines in that first season is when she's talking about Sal, and she's talking about how she's frustrated because she doesn't feel anything for him when it comes to, tingles or excitement. And she says, he thinks I'm pretty. And you can tell she doesn't think she's pretty. And it's kind of like heartbreaking. Penny's really, really good in this episode.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I definitely no argument here. There's a lot of subtlety and nuance that she's able to give, and it felt like a lot of truth she was able to pull from her own life.
Yeah. There's this like this dichotomy between the Laverne who wants to have a lot of fun and be a quasi bad girl. Like remember when she pulled those toilet paper petals apart from that toilet paper carnation, saying to be good, to be bad, and that's like her inner voice where she wants to go out and have fun and kiss sailors, but she also wants to be married, and she wants to be with a guy who's going to love her and tell her she's beautiful and listen when she talks and be reliable. So and considering the guys she dates, she doesn't get that out of any of them.
Right. Yeah, because it's
not even one of them.
Yeah, it's not even barking up the wrong tree. It's kind of like it's the It's like, well, I need X, but it's like that, honey. That's not an X. That's a K.
Yeah. She wants X to solve Y, but she's actually using G in a way.
Yeah, so it's
It's
not even
like,
it's not even close to the same shape in that case.
in a way, she doesn't know what she wants, but in a way, she knows what she wants and understands herself a little, too well, that she thinks it's never going to happen for her. She thinks, I'm going to settle for this guy. I'm going to marry this guy because otherwise I might never get married. Otherwise, I might never, go all the way, so to speak. So this is what she's thinking, and yet, in the end, she picks the future. She picks the hope of excitements, and she ultimately chooses to dream bigger, as Shirley would say, in a way.
Right.
Higher hopes.
Yeah. So I guess, because I clearly I looked at this too, I think perhaps from the critical standpoint of looking at television and the predictability of the concepts. So for yourself, because you grew up in an era when there were still a lot of these social pressures of getting married or finding that type of relationship. What do you see? What do you get out of that feeling from Laverne? Because clearly it sounds like this meant a lot to you, or at the very least you understand it very deeply. And I'm just kind of curious if there's something more there.
I understand it from the perspective of a Catholic schoolgirl. I went to school. I went through all the various private religious institutions school-wise. And that aspect, I get it, but then that's where I relate in. But otherwise, I grew up like in the 90s during the Riot Girl period. So in a way, it's anthemic. I know I can be free. I know I can do whatever the hell I damn well please and wear combat boots and kick your face in. So that's me. Why I understand that is because there's this that basic yearning to want to be with one person who gets you.
Yeah. And that's, I think, something that more of us, I think, desire than some of us want to let on. I do suspect that, the cynicism we have to kind of get beyond is often, though, created by either the expectations being dashed or the hopes being dashed.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing, because I did like thematically, or I guess conceptually, how this dealt with the idea of, is Laverne settling? Because the fact that because there is that fear, this is my only shot, and there are so many chances in our lives that we'll take the shot that we believe is our only one, and we end up shooting ourselves in the foot, I guess. But at the very least, it's I guess it's the point of it, because like it's like that quote about shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, you'll end up among the stars. That's a great idea, but then it's like there's also a practical element, which is that you didn't go for the place you wanted to go. You didn't make it to where you wanted to be, and if you had taken that time to aim yourself a little higher, or at the right angle, or just to, that little bit extra prep, you would have made it there.
Yeah, and there's also no oxygen in space, so to speak.
Right.
Well, there's no way to feed off of those stars, even if you land among them. So for Laverne's dichotomy here is between being in a safe place where she knows she'll be well provided for. She knows she'll be with a guy who's crazy about her, but she feels nothing for him at all, which means everything else is going to be a nightmare. It's going to be like kissing a statue every day. And
right.
She thinks, love will develop, and that doesn't always happen. So,
yeah.
Thus.
Great. It's less than 10 minutes, and already we're like hitting these like poignant little like, ow, that stings.
Oh yeah, well that's the show. That is the show's secret. You think it's this big, loud, silly sitcom? It's my big, loud, silly sitcom. So yeah, I'll call. That belongs. You know that speech from Guardians of the Galaxy 2 where he goes, "That belongs to me."
Yeah, right.
That's my that belongs to me. That's how I feel about the show. That's what it belongs to me, but not really. But you know what I mean. So, gives you deep thoughts. You have surprisingly deep thoughts about dumb, but other people perceive. I will say other people perceive as dumb, silly things.
Right.
But to me, it ain't. But that's just a
yeah.
Yeah.
John Woo movies have made me cry. So yeah.
There are at least three episodes of the show that make me unabashedly cry, and
yeah,
we'll get there.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean the thing I felt was really sincere about this episode though was also seeing how the supporting characters get to react to the situation as well, to see how Shirley really makes that push for Laverne for her sake. It can be very cute. It's again Shirley meddling, controlling, and mother henning.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it was interesting. I'm trying to think of exactly how I feel about Frank's reaction. I think because it's kind of expected. It's like, all right, yeah, he wants his grandkid. He wants his little girl to marry up in the world and go on to her big adventure.
More of a wants her to marry a nice Italian boy.
Yeah.
And that goes on and on and on and on. Nice Italian boy, give me grandkids, give me a grandson. And it becomes, when he gets flanderized, that becomes his only mantra for a while there. And, but yeah, that's the very first hint of Frank feeling that way here.
Yeah, that was interesting, I felt. Yeah, because it's when you contrast that with the bachelor party episode and how Frank was still like, I love you, I'm proud of you. And yet now we're getting back into that aspect of an expectation, and that, that less, maybe not necessarily less accepting, but more that he's getting part of what he wants. And so he's kind of pushing a little hard a little bit. There is that pressure coming back.
At heart, he's this traditionalist.
Yeah.
He's this traditionalist who looks at his daughter and goes, well, you're over 21. Why aren't you married? Why don't you have a kid? Because it's 1950s.
Right.
He's looking at her and wondering why she's not like her classmates. Why she's living in this basement with her best friend. So,
yep.
So that's his point of view in that entrenched masculinity, that entrenched traditionalism, the entrenched sense of old world and old school existence through which he lives.
Yeah. It's the this is the way things are, and then the fact that you're bucking that tradition makes me uncomfortable. Why are you doing that?
Yep. Why are you doing that, Laverne?
Yeah.
You need to do that, Laverne.
Yeah. I will say I loved the church scene. Was a lot of fun. There's a lot of little gags. The boys got a lot to play with here.
Yeah. I love there's a combination of really great little moments in that scene. Everything from the boys coming in, Lenny being way, way nervous because he's in church and Squiggy's calling him stupid in church. And then he hasn't been to confession in a million years. And our guest star, who was Al on Happy Days, in case you're all wondering, yes, it's the same guy playing the priest. And just looks at him and goes, you haven't been to confession in years. And everything's under control, Father. Everything's under control.
I forgot that was a line. I do love that line.
And he's just like trying to shrink down in his little Sunday suit and Squiggy just doesn't care. He's just like being roped into being Frank for the moment to walk Laverne down the aisle. He's like, go get the bride. Al is really good in this. He's good. He really is. He's just like, he makes this priest character who we just see once hilarious. And he's just like trying to run this church, trying to keep all the events going, to keep them from walking directly into a casket while marching down the aisle, which is a great omen, by the way. I love that. One of the best marriage omens I've ever seen in my life. Trying to keep the business. And he knows everybody. He's known these. It's implied that he's known everybody since they were young. I mean, he knows when Lenny stopped going to confession when he was apparently in his teens, if we're counting backward correctly. He's known Laverne probably just as long. So
right,
but he does this really great job of having a sense of humor while also just coming off as ever so slightly mercenary, and it's kind of great.
Yeah, there's a lot of lovable aspects about that character. I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. It's not much I can really add to it. It's a it's a lot of fun, and it's really cool. It's one of the more standout supporting guest performances I feel in the show that really like stands out as like, okay, this is strong. This is a strong beat. There's a lot of presence there. They enhance the episode in particular.
Yeah, there's a reason why Happy Days leaned so hard on him for a while, and why he was one of the characters they spun off for Joni Loves Chachi, and then they brought him back into the fold when that failed. So there's a reason why they leaned on him. So there's a reason why he was kind of semi-sitcom legend within the Marshall-verse, as they like to call it.
Right.
So we get a lot more Shirley and Carmine in this episode. We get more of a feeling for their relationship. There's the kind of like that tenderness aspect that we don't get a lot of in Bachelor Party. But here we get a lot of it. Like, you know, him getting horseback riding lessons for her to be her Prince Charming.
Right.
Him winning all those stuffed animals for her at the carnival,
and
trying to convince her to shut up and not say anything about Sal and Laverne, and failing.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? What do you think about these initial impressions and stirrings of their relationship?
It's one of those, it feels like they kind of half measured it, I think is kind of what it feels like when I think back on like the episodes I've seen.
Yeah.
Because the type of behavior that he's doing, it's like there's always some sort of, it's a gift with that drop of poison somewhere, that there's always that little bit of something that's gonna, I don't know. It feels a little too conditional, I guess. And yet he does genuinely care. It's just that he's not, I think, doing the, and this is just me. It's just, I am, when I'm in a relationship with someone, I tend to be much more, energetic, I guess, in my affection. And so, it's just, I guess it's just a preference thing. So prefacing my complaints of Carmine this way. But what I liked, I guess what I did appreciate is it did show, you see why Shirley sticks it out with him to an extent, because there is a tenderness to him which goes beyond his kind of, flamboyancy, his dancing, his boxing, the big ragu, the Tony Bennett, all of that, and the taka like this.
Rags to riches. And
it reminds you that also that they have, because I did like that you feel an aspect of history with the two of them, that he sort of knows what Shirley needs, and he tries to kind of give her something.
Yeah. Yep, he knows that she has this fantasy about Prince Charming. He knows that she has this white horse, picket fence, White House, station wagon, collie fantasy about how her life is going to be in the future. And in a way, he tries to fulfill it. In a way, he tries to run away from it. In a way, he tries to give her what she wants. In a way, he tries to avoid having to be the one to give it to her. It's very interesting as time goes on to see how that changes and develops.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And
we'll
that's,
get there on that one.
And that's the thing, is that it's like, it felt like a nice little turn for their relationship. And yet there was, I don't know. I could feel, even without you saying it, I could feel like, I don't know how long this is going to last. Cause it feels like almost like the writers and Eddie, like, sort of figured out kind of somewhere to sort of get the character to be a little more traditional, charming, nice guy. Again, it's a case of like, it is a bit more realistic that, she would end up with someone like that, because she is so much in this dream and this fantasy that she found something that came along early. She stuck it out. It got comfortable. She got used to it and sticks it out. And so therefore, when we see these moments here and the way that Carmine reacts to Shirley's reaction to Laverne's acceptance of the proposal and engagement, trying to figure out how to word this. He's still, you can see that he's listening to her. It's just that he's unable to give her perhaps the understanding and the support that I felt like she needed. At least that's what it seemed like to me. But that's my subjective opinion. Let me just sip my Kermit tea over here.
That's just my opinion.
Right.
Ultimately, what it comes down to is that she both wants what he represents and wants something more than what he represents. And they go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it's a complicated situation. So that's all I'll say. Complicated situation. We addressed that before. We'll address it again.
Right.
We'll get there.
So the thing that it further reminds me of, though, is like that's kind of how it mirrors what's happening with Laverne and, you know, Sailor Boy, is that she has this aspect of like, you know, she has this fantasy and she's going to kind of settle for something that's a little less than that, and he can't quite give her, you know, he doesn't give her the goosebumps.
Yeah, he doesn't give her the goosebumps, which is the first time this appears in the series and becomes a trope. It shows up again in season 6 when Sal comes back, and yes, Sal does come back.
Oh boy!
But it's a frequent thing that this guy does not give her goosebumps, but bikers, sailors, all these men who are basically terrible, they give her the goosebumps, and she doesn't understand it. She doesn't understand herself and why that happens.
Right.
So that's interesting. What comes to mind when I watch this episode. Laverne totally rejects the Prince Charming fantasy. Totally rejects it completely. The idea that Prince Charming is out there waiting for her while Shirley's running after it for herself. And it just, you know, points up once again the cynic versus the dreamer. So that's interesting
little tidbit.
Yeah, little character trait, little character building moments.
I guess that is, I guess, thinking about that then, when thinking about the character stuff, it does thematically develop the series so that it's able to understand a little more thematically about the characters and kind of their archetypes as well as their core values. Yeah. And being able to examine, okay, so how are they going to react to these situations when being prompted? And it's definitely, and it was interesting how it resolved in that fashion. I mean, definitely, I think I do appreciate the story being about reminding people, especially, you know, because this was a show that, as we said, despite some of the content occasionally, there were kids that would be watching this show. And I can imagine having watched this show when I was of a certain age, I could have gotten that from it, where reminding that, because little personal story time. When I first got into relationship stuff, I mean, I was like 11, 12 years old, and, you know, that type of stuff, and having crushes and whatnot. There was a sense that it definitely was a lot like, as we were discussing about Lenny, about how, like, you know, just sort of ending up falling in love with like the first thing that notices me. I could see this being a reminder that think about what you really want. Yeah. And go for it and think and decide on it and make sure you discern if it's the thing you really want the most. If it's not, are you okay with that? And just that level of assessment, discernment, and decision. Yeah. Yeah,
it's ultimately about what are you willing to sacrifice and what are you willing to keep. What can you live without? What can you live with? And that's where the bottom line is.
Also, I was just gonna quickly comment. I love that it's called Falter at the Altar. That's an awesome name. Go ahead.
It's a great title. For Laverne can't live without physical affection. She can't live without the goosebumps. She can't ultimately look at this man and say, "I love you," which is awful. If you're marrying someone, you cannot look them in the eye and say, "I love you." Yikes.
Yeah.
Don't even bother.
Yeah. I thankfully I've not gotten to an engagement point, but I've had a couple of cases where like something was like 10 years ago. This is before you and I knew each other, was that there was a relationship where it was like we went on this date to go see Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, and it was like kind of disastrous because the movie was terrible. Sorry everyone out there, but that I didn't like that film. But what I'm saying is we kept trying, and so it sort of sucked because it's like every time we looked at it, it was like, hi, I want this to work, but I don't feel about you that way. It was
you're a friend, you're shaped like a friend.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, it was, but yeah, exactly. It's like, you have to figure out what matters, and, you know, yeah. And it's all good now. I you know, it's like, hopefully Laverne at some point figures out if she has a type, what for real, like what she needs, then she finds it. I have figured out what my type is. And I like that I know what my type is. Now I know what to look for now.
Well, all I can say about that one is, wow, season 8. Season 8, kids. Season 8. It's coming like a shark.
I'm gonna reach over. I'm gonna grab your little catchphrase here. I'm just gonna say, "We'll get there. We'll
Okay,
we'll get there."
But yeah, and this is the very first brush with marriage that either of the girls will have. There will be multiple other weddings. There was one successful wedding during the show's run. There's actually 2 successful weddings. But 2 successful weddings. People forget about the second successful wedding because that's one of the perceived shark jokes. But there's 2 successful weddings. Shirley almost marries Carmine at one point. There's the girls almost. There's this infamous episode coming up in season 6, in which the girls get really, really stoned and almost marry Eric Idle and Peter Noon at a Vegas wedding chapel, and there's a cocaine joke in it.
Okay, my brow might need to go to the emergency room for how strongly it just furrowed. Ow. What?
Yeah, that happens. It happens.
Okay. I think I'm gonna stay happily here in season 1 until I'm ready to get to that point. Oh dear.
It's coming.
Okay.
It's coming. That's not even the shark. That's actually funny. The episode is actually funny. The cast is still intact. It's actually funny. but that episode was infamously banned from Nick at Night.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
It was because it apparently, because of drug use, and it wasn't portrayed in the bad light. It was portrayed in the funny lights, and ergo, boom.
Yeah.
No syndication, baby. No syndication for you. Nobody got to see it until they started airing it on Lifetime.
Wow.
Lifetime, by the way, also butchered the show in syndication, I'm going to add. Gee, just what I want to see. No end titles. Nothing. Thanks.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, that episode in particular is infamous for being one of, for both its drug content and being yet another episode about a wedding that doesn't come through. But yeah, we start very, very innocently here with this first failed marriage attempt. And there will be other engagements, other engagement attempts. Well, anyway.
Yeah, and hopefully just they are engaging to watch. Maybe. Oh.
Do we have an audio clip of a rim shot? Do we have that?
Future me will know what to do. Hey Ringo, that was the joke.
Our song still be shit when I'm 64.
Okay. Nice. Take a nice little walk hard element there. Great.
I love that movie. Anyway.
Yeah. My dad finally, after 10 years of trying to convince him to watch it, he finally watched it last Christmas. He fucking loved it.
Good. I love that movie. It's amazing.
Yeah. Anyway,
sorry. Hardly underrated. Watch that movie. Watch that movie, children. Go watch the movie. Yeah, this is the first example of Laverne not thinking in terms of love. This happens over and over and over and over and over again. A lot. All the time. And sometimes it gets very dangerous for her. Sometimes it gets a little dicey when it comes to who she's being with, especially like season 6, season 7. It culminates in season 8 in a horrible way. Again, we'll get there. But this becomes a character pattern for her in that she, as the episode title says, she does not look before she leaps.
Oh,
so
I see. This so being okay. It's theming.
Yeah, like there's a lot of little cute, tiny moments in this episode that are really elevate it and bring it to a higher stratosphere and make it very, very, very worthwhile. This is probably like high very high in the list for me,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to season 1 episodes. But it's notable, like I said, the concept of goosebumps being introduced here, because it becomes kind of like a referential thing for, are you really in love? Does he give you goosebumps? And I get there is a time where it seems like she meets a guy who does, and sad things happen. We'll get there too. But that is a starting point for her character and kind of how she thinks and feels. So
Yeah,
there you go.
it's good to see that introduced. So out of 10, how do you rate the episode?
This is all the way up to an 8 for me. All the way up to an 8. It's very close to a 9. Fabulous writing, lots of really, 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 really good points and emotional character stuff and character building. And it balances the humor and the sentiment well. And whenever this show does that, it's a success and it's a win for the entire program.
Agreed. Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking around like a 7.5, but through our discussion, honestly, I think my horizons have been broadened through our discussion and to examine it a little more deeply, see it from a different perspective. Yeah, I think I'd give it a pretty solid 8. Maybe an 8.1, maybe an 8.2 if we can allow a little decimal wiggle room here.
Decimal points.
Yeah, and then and so yeah, it's something. It's I guess what I also really like to see in it is that it's a reminder that sometimes, when we're in these situations, we get really intense about. If our best friends are there for us, they can help us to figure out if we're making the right decision. And counsel is important, and that sometimes a little hard to hear at times, but that eventually we have to, take that second glance. Anyway, that I'm just going in circles about the same point I was talking about a little while ago.
Well, I think I'll rate this one a little higher because of the stroll scene at the end of the episode. It's just that cute. It's so worth it. It's so cute.
Yeah.
Shh. Allowed to talk about my OTP sometimes.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, there'll be episodes coming. A lot of episodes coming. You won't be able to shut me up. Be prepared for them.
Yeah, no, I'm probably at that point. I'm just gonna mute my mic at that point and just listen for the gap. Listen to just turn on just real quick. No, okay.
That's what they're screaming about. It's all subtext. It's all subtext. You don't understand. You don't understand. Anyway,
don't get me wrong. I did see it. I mean, as I saw it immediately, and especially given the timing of how it all sets up, and it's like you get that little glimpse, and then you realize like, okay, then they kind of start to do these. You've told me like there's other little bonding things that they get to experience, and then and then it's like you start to wonder like, are they going to go for it? And it sounds like they kind of don't, and it's like, what the hell, guy?
Oh, they get deadly close to going for it multiple times, and then you get actual AU fan fiction at the very end of the damn 7th season, basically where it happens, but it's AU, but it happens.
Oh boy.
It kind of counts in the way. It kind of counts. We'll take that one little sliver because it's better than anything else we get in the show. But hey.
Yeah.
We're talking about Laverne and Lenny in case the kids aren't entirely up on the lingo.
Yeah. Excellent. Is there anything else you feel like you need to cover for this episode? I feel like I've said all the things I have to say. I've learned a lot, and thank you so much for your perspective.
Me too.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and then we'll continue to keep on locomoting on, getting on through the seasons bit by bit by bit. So yeah, I think that's all I've got to say about this one, though.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks again to Lisa for having me on this show and dragging me into this wonderful delight. And I didn't kick and scream too much.
No, actually, you were very agreeable.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The duct tape helped.
Stop. Everything. Duct tape heals. It doesn't hurt.
Does it hurt? God, I haven't told you about the duct tape tuxedo story.
Oh God, no, I was thinking Evil Dead. Where it's the ultimate panacea for anything that could ever be wrong. That's
God.
what I was thinking of. Not real. You should rip it off of your body.
But anyway, what was the thing I was gonna say? I'm sorry, folks. I think my brain just partly exploded. The But yeah, so I guess anyways, thank you all again, as we've completely started to melt our brains. It's very hot in this room as I'm speaking right now. I think that's part of why my brain has decided to melt. But aside from horror movie references, we will be hopefully back next time with another episode. And Lisa, what is our next episode? I actually don't remember what's after this one.
Pause for 2 seconds while I look up which episode it is. The next episode asks the eternal question: would you go through eternity linked with Lenny and Squiggy? Dog Day blind dates in which the girls go out with two guys who seem nice, normal, even scholarly and businesslike, until they blow up the bathroom at the Pizza Bowl just to get into the bank next door, and they hold the girls and the boys hostage.
So basically, we're deciding to go into 70s American crime story, and we should probably be expecting Andy Robinson, Walter Matthau, or Lee Marvin at any second.
Yes.
Insert asterisk here. We cannot promise any of that's about to happen.
Anarchy.
Oh boy. But yeah, no, that's excellent. That sounds like a great time, and looking forward to getting the chance to talk about that one. All right. Thanks again, everyone. I guess we'll be back next time with Dog Day blind dates. And yeah, make sure to find us on all the social medias. Lisa, you want to tell the nice folks at can you? Because I need to take a sip of water. Can you tell the nice folks at home where they can get in touch with us?
We are all over the place at Night After Night Pod, except on Twitter, where we are Night AFT Night Pod. Twitter does not like long names. Thanks, Twitter.
Yeah, thanks, Twitter. Just you gotta just be like that. It's fine. It's whatever. Yeah, like we even care. Yeah, it's fine. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. I have no idea why I'm doing this. Okay.
Man.
All right, excellent. Well, thanks again for joining us, everyone. We will hopefully not be quite as overheated and ridiculous. And if we are more ridiculous, then just remember, we're all in this together.
God help us.